There's a moment every man has felt, but very few understand correctly. She used to reply quickly. She used to initiate conversations. She used to feel emotionally present. And then suddenly, she becomes busy. Not just once, not just a day, but consistently. Short replies, delayed responses, less energy, more distance. And here's the psychological truth most men miss completely. Busy is rarely about time. It's about priority and emotional availability shifting beneath the surface. But what if I told you the real meaning behind her busyness has almost nothing to do with her schedule and everything to do with how she now feels when she thinks about you? So the real question is this: is she actually busy? Or are you slowly being replaced in her emotional space without even realizing it? In the next few minutes, you're going to understand the psychology behind sudden emotional distance, not from a place of guessing, but from behavioral patterns studied in attachment theory, attraction dynamics, and emotional regulation. You'll learn why someone can feel fully present one week and emotionally distant the next. More importantly, you'll learn what not to do in that moment, because most men unknowingly push attraction further away by reacting the wrong way. By the end of this video, you won't be confused by mixed signals anymore. You'll see them clearly for what they are: signals, not mysteries. And once you see that, your entire emotional response changes. Let's go deeper. Let's start with something simple. A man notices she replies slower. He assumes she's overwhelmed. Work stress, family pressure, life chaos. So he gives more attention, more texts, more patience, more availability. But psychologically, something else is happening. In attachment theory, especially avoidant or mixed style dynamics, people regulate emotional closeness by creating distance when intensity feels high. Not always consciously, it's automatic. So when she suddenly becomes busy, it can be her nervous system recalibrating emotional proximity. Not because you did something wrong, but because the emotional intensity shifted beyond her comfort zone. And here's the key insight. When someone feels slightly overwhelmed by emotional closeness, they don't always say it. They create space instead. So, busy becomes a socially acceptable distance tool. Not rejection, not explanation, just regulation. And if you chase that distance, you amplify it. Which leads us to something deeper. Transition. Because not every withdrawal is emotional regulation. Sometimes it's something else entirely. Imagine this. A woman is engaged, responsive, even curious about you. Then suddenly, her energy shifts. Most men assume she lost interest, but psychology tells a more precise truth. Human attention doesn't just disappear, it reallocates. We don't stop being interested in everything. We become more interested in something else. A new priority, a new emotional stimulus, a new connection, a new life focus. So when her busyness appears suddenly, it's often not emotional emptiness. It's emotional redirection. And this is where men misread everything. They try to pull attention back using more messages, more effort, more presence. But attraction doesn't respond well to pressure. It responds to emotional space and curiosity. The more you push, the more you confirm the need for distance. So instead of asking, "How do I get her attention back?" the real question becomes, what replaced you in her emotional hierarchy? Transition. And sometimes, it's not another person, it's something even more subtle. Here's a hidden dynamic most men never notice. Early interaction has emotional novelty, curiosity, dopamine spikes, exploration energy. But as familiarity grows, the brain naturally starts normalizing the emotional pattern. This is called hedonic adaptation in psychology. What once felt exciting becomes emotionally baseline. So when she suddenly becomes busy, it may not be rejection at all. It may be emotional recalibration after intensity. She's not pulling away from you as a person. She's pulling away from the emotional state the interaction created. And here's where men make a critical mistake. They try to restore intensity by increasing effort, more compliments, more availability, more emotional investment. But intensity without balance creates pressure, not attraction. Real attraction survives in space, not saturation. So instead of increasing pursuit, the smarter response is stability, calm presence, controlled engagement, no emotional panic. Because what she's actually testing, without saying it, is emotional steadiness. Transition. But there's another layer most men don't consider at all. Sometimes, I'm busy is not about time, it's about boundaries. Think about a scenario. A woman starts noticing that communication is becoming more frequent, more expected, more emotionally consuming. She may not want to hurt your feelings. She may not want confrontation. So instead of saying slow down, she unconsciously shifts into busyness. Less availability becomes a silent boundary. This is where emotional intelligence matters, because many men interpret this as a problem to fix, not a boundary to respect. They try to break through the busyness with persistence. But psychologically, boundaries don't respond to force. They respond to respect. And if she senses you can't regulate your own emotional urgency, attraction weakens, not because of lack of interest, but because of perceived emotional imbalance. So what should you do instead? You match energy, not chase it, not punish it, just align with it. That's emotional maturity. And it changes how you're perceived instantly. Transition. But now let's address the biggest misunderstanding of all. Here's something counterintuitive most men never hear. People don't actually become busy overnight. They become selectively available. And that shift is almost never random. It's shaped by emotional comfort, attraction stability, and how the connection feels internally, not externally. So the real question is not why is she busy? It's why does emotional access to you feel different now than it did before? Sit with that for a second, because once you understand that, you stop reacting and start observing. Now let's continue. When a man senses distance, his instinct is often escalation. More messages, more checking in, more explanations, more emotional exposure. But psychologically, this creates something called emotional saturation. Instead of increasing attraction, it increases pressure. And pressure reduces curiosity. Think about it like this. Attraction needs space to breathe. If you fill every gap with attention, there's no room for longing, no room for pull, no room for emotional re-engagement. And here's the hard truth. You cannot convince someone to feel more by giving more. Attraction is not a transaction. It's a perception-based response. So the strongest move in moments of busyness is not withdrawal out of insecurity, but calm consistency. You remain grounded. You don't overreact. You don't overinterpret. Because emotional stability is far more attractive than emotional intensity without control. Transition. And this is where everything comes together. At the core of all of this is a deeper truth most men overlook. When someone becomes distant, it doesn't automatically mean you are less valuable, but it does reveal something important about emotional alignment, because attraction is not just about connection. It's about how two nervous systems feel in each other's presence over time. And when that balance shifts, behavior shifts with it. But here's what really matters. Your value was never meant to be validated by constant attention. And your emotional stability was never meant to depend on someone else's availability. The real strength is not in chasing consistency from others, but in maintaining consistency within yourself even when things feel uncertain. Because the men who understand this stop reacting from fear. They observe, they adapt, they stay grounded. And ironically, that groundedness is often what restores attraction naturally, not because they tried harder, but because they stopped needing to. That's the real shift. If this resonated with you, take a moment and reflect on your own experiences. How often have you mistaken busyness for disinterest? when it was actually something more complex happening underneath? Drop a comment and share your experience. I read them because real patterns matter more than theory. And if you want the next layer of this conversation, the next video will break down something even more subtle: how women emotionally test stability without ever saying a word. Because once you understand that, you stop guessing completely. You start seeing behavior for what it really is. And remember this: the most powerful response to confusion is not reaction, it's clarity with calm control.